Hey everyone, we're back with another webinar here, and one of my friends is on the call. This is Bronson Hill. I had him on my podcast a while back, but it's good to circle back to hear what he's working on. He's got a new book. Before we dive into the book and what he's talking about today, which is on the theme of rich brain, I'll let you dive into that in a minute. But before you do that, if you could take a few minutes here, tell the audience about your background, and then we'll go ahead and dive in.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me again. It's great to be here. And I always love the value you're bringing to people, and I love your products that you have as well. I think they're just incredible value you're providing. So I love what you're doing. So a quick background about myself. I was a medical device sales guy for about 10 years. That meant I would go into surgery with physicians and help them with their heart surgical equipment. And I enjoyed it. I was making over $200,000 a year, working, 30 hours a week. But the thing that I didn't have that I really wanted, and a lot of people that are professionals can relate with this, is I didn't have control over my time. So people often will say, I want financial freedom, but really what we want is time freedom. And so I started looking into it. I thought, I want to get into this. Just started looking at different ways to do it. I thought real estate would be a great choice to go. So I started buying single family houses. I had a portfolio of 4 or 5 single family houses. Realized it was a lot of work, and then found a mentor and realized, okay, maybe I could go do some larger deals in multifamily real estate. At first, I thought, well, I don't have the money. And I learned about this thing called syndication where I could raise money or kind of work with other people to help do larger deals. So that was about 5 years ago. Now I've raised almost $45 million for different real estate projects, other business projects. We help people in our business to provide cash flow, appreciation, or tax benefits. And I'm also the author of this book behind me, Fire Yourself, which is replace your working income with passive income in 3 years or less. So it's really a guide of how do you get started in investing in alternative assets when you're like, I don't really know anything about stocks or bonds or having a investment advisor or things like that. And so that's kind of how I got my start. And then I'm excited today to talk about Rich Brain because it's just, having 2,500 interviews now with millionaires. I've just come up with all these things that, most people think that you're either born with money or you're not, but 86% of millionaires were actually self-made. So people don't realize that almost 90% of millionaires actually figured out a way to learn how to do it, and they did not come from money. So it's very encouraging that we can actually learn how to grow wealth, and we can actually change our mindset and do these specific wealth habits and become wealthy ourselves.
Awesome. I love the background there. And 20, did you say 2,600 interviews?
Yeah, close between 25 and 2,600. Yeah,
Over what kind of time frame?
over about 5 years.
5 years. Okay, so we've compressed all that knowledge. I'm going to
Yeah.
bundle it up right now. So let's go ahead and dive into the book. We want to touch on some of the hot takeaways. My audience, they love actionable takeaways. They're tactical. They like to get after it right away. No theory, no fluff. We want to know what steps to take today. So let's dive into some of the hot takeaways you have within this book.
Sure. So I've got a presentation if you're okay. I've got some slides I'd love to share if you're okay with
Sure,
that. Unless you prefer to be
please.
interviewed, we can certainly do that. This is the first time I've given this presentation. So you guys are part of especially those watching it live, you're the first people that have seen this. And so when I talk about this topic, it really has been very exciting to a lot of people. So I'm excited to, I've just been kind of talking about it here and there. So you guys can see that on your screen there.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so this is who I am, Bronson Hill, and this is the book Rich Brain: How the Wealthy Change Their Brain to Change Their Bank Account. So that's everybody wants that, right? How and what really are those specific brain-changing habits or the things that we do that actually change the way that we live? Um, so on this, really, this whole thing came basically. I had this Uber ride. This was a number of months ago. I was I believe, in Dallas. I travel for work a little bit, and I had this Uber, driver who was. This wasn't actually her, but it was, kind of her age, maybe 30 years old or something. And she overheard a call I was taking from an investor who was sending $100,000 over for a deal or something like that. Just not a normal call. You'd probably hear it in Uber. But she said, "Well, how do I learn more about money, or how do I learn about wealth, or how do I become wealthy?" And it kind of struck me because I was like, well, I can recommend a couple of books, but there's really nothing out there that really can help you to actually get to that place. And so that's really where the story of this book came from, is I just really wanted to be in a place where I could say, hey, here's something that you can just take and understand. If somebody doesn't know how to become wealthy, these are really ways to do it. And so this basically, this is stuff really that we're not taught. Is solid financial education, as you know. I mean, you teach this stuff as well.
Mhm.
We're not taught it in school. We're not taught in society. Wall Street teaches us because there's billions of dollars pumped into Wall Street. Every year we have gurus, people that tell us to have no debt or get rich quick schemes. And people really don't have a financial plan. And that's a problem, right? And so, just when it comes to no savings, this is where most Americans really live. Now, again, probably not people on this call, but this is where most people are. Nearly 60% of Americans have less than $1,000 in saving, and 40% have zero savings at all. Nearly 70% of Americans would struggle to cover an unexpected expense of $1,000, and 60% live paycheck to paycheck. So, these are just facts that, this is kind of the world we live in. So, obviously, again, people on calls like this, but I also think of, the Uber driver. I think of, family and friends and relatives that I have that are not really educating themselves or are in this situation as well. It's easy to do this. And so I think it's important to kind of just, have a plan. And then when it comes to debt, there's some people that are in debt. We have over 50% of Americans with credit cards have a balance, so they're paying 15 to 30% interest, and they have on average 101,000 in debt. It could be including mortgages and other things. There's a lot of debt that's out there, but this is really most people's financial plan to get wealthy, right? Is to win the lottery or have your rich uncle die. Now the rich uncle looks pretty cool here, but really, there's really no plan, right? It's either going to be chance that we're going to get it, or there's really no plan to be able to get there. And obviously, I think this is a problem. This is a problem because most even lottery winners that become wealthy end up going bankrupt within a few years, or people that inherit a lot of wealth. There's a really great ESPN documentary, a 30 for 30 documentary called Broke, and it studies professional athletes and how 85% of them are bankrupt within 3 to 5 years. So, it's really, really important to kind of just be aware of this stuff and figure out where you're headed. So these are some limiting beliefs. This is something that I think is a real limiting one that I discovered, that 65% of Americans believe that people became wealthy because of their advantages they received in life. So it could be the connections, it could be the family, it could be they inherited it, whatever. But, and these are some limiting beliefs here down at the bottom. I don't come from money. I don't have the right connections. I did not go to the right school. So if that's you, maybe just put something in the chat. I'd love to know if anybody has encountered some of the limiting beliefs around wealth. Just go ahead and put that in the Q&A or the chat. Would love to see from you if you've experienced those as well. And we have a few people live here as well. So just drop that in the chat if those are things that have limited you or you felt limited by. I'll kind of keep going. We can respond to those
Sure.
comments as you put those in there. Like I said, interviewed over 2,500 millionaires. This is the shock. I still find this shocking, right? That 86% of millionaires did not inherit their wealth. Again, it's just very different than the way we talk about, class warfare and, either the haves or the haves not. But really what these people did to become wealthy is that they changed their mindset and they changed their habits. There's some very specific things around mindset and very specific things around habit. I'm going to go into the mindset and then just one of the habits. There's a few of them. I'm going to go into one of that. We don't have a lot of time to kind of go into all of it. I'm going to share part of it today. So this is a little bit of my bio. Like I shared, raised over 40 million now for alternative assets, such as, oil and gas, ATMs, car washes, different types of deals. We have a meetup. Actually, we're doing it tonight in Glendale, California. If anybody's in Southern California, you can join our local meetup. And then we just, really focus on how people get financial freedom through different passive investments. And so that's a little bit about myself. And then what is the wealth mindset? Now, this is something that I think was also a little bit surprising to me, is that there's this thing called wealth worthiness. What is wealth worthiness? Well, people that are wealthy, they've gotten to a place where they feel that they are worthy of having the wealth. I'm going to get in a couple quotes here, kind of what that really means. But if I walk into a situation such as I inherit a bunch of money, or if I win the lottery, there's been no real process there for me to learn or grow or have any skills to be able to have this. If I suddenly gave you $1 billion, that would be a huge blessing. You'd love it, but it'd be a huge challenge, right? Because you'd be saying, what do I do? Or how do I manage this? You'd have all these relatives and friends and bad actors coming out trying to find a way to get that $1 billion, get some of that money from you, right? So there's this idea that, having a sense of worthiness around it, being prepared for it is important, and really believing that you're worthy of it. And there's Brené Brown, who's a great author that I love, one of my favorite personal development books, The Gifts of Imperfection. She says, if we want to fully experience love and belonging, we must believe that we are worthy of love and belonging. So she's talking about in the terms of relationships. So if I want to have a great, healthy relationship with a significant other, I've got to believe I'm worthy of that. If I don't believe that I'm worthy of it, I'm probably going to be with someone who's not going to treat me well, who's going to take advantage of me, whatever. And again, this is stuff that it just kind of happens, but it comes from a sense of personal worth, of feeling what is appropriate for you. And there's another example of this too. So, we'll sabotage ourselves. 95% of people engage in self-sabotaging habits. So we procrastinate, we have perfectionism and chronic indecision. So, really, it comes down to your self-talk as well. An example of this is, let's say if I want to go ask a beautiful woman out on a date, right? But I already kind of know in my mind that, oh, she's not going to like me. She's not going to think I'm good enough or whatever. I basically will self-sabotage because internally I haven't really incorporated that I'm a valuable person, that I've got something to give to this. And so I walk into a situation basically sabotaging it before it happens. Well, it's the same with wealth. It's the same with wealth. If I am in a situation, I'm going for a business deal, I will show up in a different way. Now, it can be in my mind, it can be in the physical way that I show up, but the universe responds to who we are and how we show up. So if I show up, you wonder how people like Elon Musk can come and do these basically impossible things they said no one can do, but he came up because he became that person first. So a lot of this comes down to really having those habits of becoming the person really that is a wealthy person, not just in what you have, but in what you're doing and the ways that you're acting. And there's this thing called be, do, have. Everybody wants to have this in reverse order. We want to have the wealth, but we don't want to actually do the things or become the person, right? We just want to inherit. We want to have it all. And so, really, the correct process of becoming wealthy is you become a wealthy person. You become it in your mindset. You become it in the way you think. You become in the way that you interact with others. You do the things that wealthy people do, and there's specific habits that wealthy people do, and then over time you will have the wealth. But you can't get that out of order. If you get those out of order, you'll go through a time where you may get some wealth, but you're not actually a wealthy person because you haven't really become that over time. So I'm gonna get some more specific examples here so you can see this and kind of what this actually looks like. So this is the head and heart separation. So if a lot of people, I would say, you know just in general as a belief, most people will believe that, hey, I know I'm loved and I'm valued. I know that I'm cared about, or I know that I'm very competent at what I do. And a lot of times we have this separation, right, where we know it in our head, but we don't feel it in our heart. And I think there's things that we could feel that, right? You can think about your biggest, wildest dream thing that you want to achieve. You say, you know that it's possible in your head. It's possible for someone to do that, but you don't really feel that you could do it. You don't really feel that you have the ability to do it yourself. And so we always see this from a spiritual standpoint as well. I might know that, okay, if you're a person of faith, you might know that God loves you, but you don't feel like it when you do something bad, or you don't feel like it in certain situations. Well, how do you change that? The way that you change that is you have to meditate on the truth. You got to meditate on things that are actually true about who you are. And so there's a process that I learned that really helped me to 20x my net worth in 4 years, and basically go to a seven-figure entrepreneur, and really be able to change a lot of this. And really, this is kind of some of the things that I looked at here is wealthy people. This is something I discovered. Wealthy people feel worthy of the wealth. Some have already had it before they became wealthy, but some developed this over time. So it wasn't just like they had it or they didn't have it. Sometimes it was developed over time. But how do you actually develop this wealth worthiness, right? How do you develop this worthiness that when you walk into a situation or a business deal, you feel worthy of someone giving you a gift, or being a part of a great business deal, or operating a great business? How does that happen? And so, like we talked about, the wealthy people feel worthy of wealth. That's just kind of a repeat of what we had said before. And I want to share this personal crisis that I had. So 7 or 8 years ago, I went through a divorce. It was very difficult for me. It was a dark time in my life. And I remember going through that and just really feeling just no sense of self-confidence, just feeling like, man, I don't know what am I doing with my life? Like I know I'm a worthy person. I know I'm valuable, but man, right now I just really don't feel it. If you've been through a challenging time, this isn't too deep for some of your audience here, but or too personal, but I think it directly relates into how we develop wealth. And so for me, really the tool that I use to get out of this or to really develop the wealth in my life, and again, what was evidence of this is the next 4 or 5 years, being worth, around $4 million. It came from doing this specific habit, and it really helped me develop my worthiness. So for me, I used this personal crisis and I created, people call them affirmations. I call them wealth whisperings. So they're basically the whisperings that, whispering is different than affirmation because it actually allows you to, we talk about self-talk. It's not always what we say out loud. It's something that we say under our breath. We say to ourselves. Sometimes we'll be in the car and we'll hit somebody and say, "Oh, you're so dumb," or "so stupid," or whatever. And it's really important to pay attention to those things that we say to ourselves. And so up here, this one just says, "I'm the beloved Son of God, made in His image. I like and I admire myself, and I'm worthy of God's love and the love and belonging of others." So that's a worthiness type of thing, right? So I'm worthy of that. And this is another one. When I walk into the room, I, Bronson, own the room with the confidence and the authority of a king. Well, you might think like these are pretty bold and they're pretty out there, but it's for me. These through my words, I was able to actually create these feelings of worthiness. I was able to create these feelings of confidence. And so now I do walk into a room. I just had a 1,800 person conference this last weekend. There were 450 people at my breakout session. I shared some very personal things with people, and it was amazing, right? This Limitless conference was awesome. So to me, I feel like I've actually manifested some of those things just by creating it with my words, by creating it with an intention. And these are things that I do every morning. So I've got 14 of these different statements that I say to myself. I try to really not just say them, but I try to feel them on the inside. And again, no matter where you're at in your career, if you're further along, if you're wherever you're at in your life, if it's whatever the thing is in your life, or there's a separation between what you want to feel you're true, whether it's you're not experiencing the joy that you want, you're not experiencing peace, you have conflict in your relationships, you see challenges coming up, or you respond in a way you don't like, you can create these words around things, these whisperings that can really be powerful for you. I want to take just a quick break here. We got a few more slides, but just would love to see if anybody has any questions or any feedback so far. Is everybody
All right,
with me? I'm
guys,
like, you guys are pretty
don't
quiet here.
don't go silent on me. You guys are usually pretty good. I'm gonna start. I do this from time to time, and as I'll add people to the call. So I'm gonna get David, Frederico, welcome. Recognize you, David, Frederico, Glenn. I recognize you. Margie, I think you're newer. SB, Sean, welcome back. Simone, good to see you again. Sina and Sue. Hey, Sue. So you're now allowed to talk. Don't all speak at once. Any questions? Feel free.
Yeah, questions or comments or anything anybody wanted to share? Is this something that's impacting you? I think I've gotten a single comment since we started, so I want to know if you're there or if this is just playing in the
It
background.
it can, well, people can be
Maybe,
a little shy in the
right.
subject of money. I've been doing this
Sure.
for
Yeah, yeah.
4 years, which is totally okay.
Yeah.
We'll give it a few seconds here. If nobody has anything to say, we'll continue moving forward. But
Sean, you can always count on me. It's Sue here.
Love it, Sue. Thanks.
Sue, love it. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Okay, Bronson Hill. Wow, this is wonderful. What's the name of the author? There's another author, Hill. I can't remember his last name. Anyway, I'm
Oh, Napoleon Hill. Is that right?
Napoleon
Napoleon.
Hill. There you
Yeah, my
go.
cousin Napoleon. We're
There
not
you
related at
go.
The
all, but I
There
call
relation
you
him my
go.
there.
cousins.
Okay.
No,
There you go.
I wish we were related. I don't think we are related, but you
Yeah,
never
but it's
know.
kind
So
of the same kind of mindset, you know? And I'm really liking what I'm hearing here. So one thing it strikes me, and I was thinking about, you wanted a comment earlier, and I thought, I feel worthy. I super feel worthy.
Mhm.
great.
I believe I'm worthy, and I'm in a big way. But I know that there's some kind of block going on. So, um, your 14 statements, I know you're going to get to them. I took a screen capture of the two that you mentioned. And I've heard these things before, and that's really interesting, kind of to commit to, and I can do that, commit to some kind of daily routine in addition to all the other activities that I do. Anyway, I just wanted to say thanks very much. I know
Mhm.
some of what you're saying here is pretty brave, putting it out there, and I, for one, truly appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for sharing,
Awesome.
Sue. No, I appreciate that. And I think it's yeah, we'll talk more about how you create different whisper these wealth whisperings around your life. And yeah, it's great. I mean, again, I use habit stacking. So I just kind of have a morning routine where I'll James Clear in his book Atomic Habits talks about, if when you brush your teeth, if you can add a habit onto that and onto that and onto that, and all of a sudden you got, it takes me about 5 minutes in the morning, but I go through all this. And sometimes you could do it two a day, but just even once a day is great. So I'm a big just doing daily habits and things that can really help you. So I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful, Sue.
Sue, thanks for jumping in there. Always appreciate it. We had a comment here from Margie just did say, just joining in a place of personal crisis. I'm learning and looking for ways to improve mindset. So thanks for being open there and commenting, Margie, and definitely, stick with us here. I think, Bronson, you've got some more good stuff, but mindset is, and I've been through it as well, as you hit those plateaus in business or whatever you're trying to do. It's like you keep hammering away and nothing's happening. It's like, what am I doing wrong? And
Yeah.
a part of it, it's like take a step back. What is your mindset? And your slide there, showing that, especially the owning the room, owning the space is when you first have I love your comment on this, and this is not about me, this is about you, Bronson. But
Yeah.
when you have that confidence first, the actions follow. And the actions can be how you talk to people on sales calls if you're in a sales position, or how you conduct yourselves in rooms if you're, my past background was project management, or if you're in some kind of support role in business, whatever you do, how you interact with people, if you have the mindset first, the actions follow, and that makes a bigger impact. And people kind of come away like, oh man, this person, they really own it. They own the outcome,
Yeah.
and I can count on them. They have high integrity. They have good character. It's like this domino effect. So you don't get those things unless the mindset is the first thing you go after. And building Tykr, for example, it's this is not a walk in a park. It's been
Yeah.
tough. And you hit those moments that I got to tell myself, all right, Sean, mindset. You've got to have the right confidence to build the right relationships, strategic partners, and then things go from there. So I'll
Yeah.
stop.
No, that's great. I want to thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Sue, and also Margie for sharing. It's, I'm grateful when you present something and it's a little vulnerable, people can engage with that. So thank you for those of you that are engaging. And absolutely, we'll get more into the mindset piece of it because it really is, Tony Robbins would say, success in life is about 80% psychology, right? It's just getting the right mindset. If we can just show up and be in the right mindset, it's amazing. I mean, we show up at a business networking event, we show up on a first date, we show up and wherever, and we're in a good place. Man, we're gonna really show up as our best selves, and that's what I want for each of you. I want you to show up as your best self. And there's just this idea that the people we see that are the most successful people in life, they're no different than you and I. It's just they found a way with their mindset to really feel worthy of where they're at. So that's something that it's a continual thing for me. It's not like every single successful person that I know, except for complete egomaniacs or narcissists, deals with imposter syndrome. We deal with, am I
Right.
enough? Am I okay? Do I belong? And so I think that it's important to have this conversation around worthiness because most of us honestly don't feel worthy a lot of times. And so this is where this self-talk, it's important to examine. And I think that's a good strategy too, just to take some time and write down what your self-talk is and just be honest. Is there times where it's negative? Because we need to really be able to try to get going on our own. Um, so how do we change? Okay, there's a comment here from
Mhm.
SB, succession options and futures trading. Few terrible months, lost all the profit. I can share, I laughed because I can share a story on that. And the principle, how do we change the mindset where we can make smart money over a short span of time? So I have a story on this with options. I was trading options. I talk about this in my book, Fire Yourself. My net worth at the time was about 200K. This was years ago. And I had about $70,000 that I lost in one day in an options trading strategy. So involving iron condors and everything. So, I learned, and I think this is the whole thing is everything in investing and in life is learning. Some lessons are more, expensive than others, but, if we just take time, we learn, it will really help us. So we change the mindset, we can make money over a short span of time. I think it all comes to, I think a lot of this does come back to worthiness. And I think it comes back to preparation as well. I think there's other things. It's not like worthiness will be the only thing you need because you can feel really worthy of it. And yet, you still need to invest in yourself. And there's the things in the book that are about specific habits. Once you get the mindset correct, then you implement these habits. And I'm going to get into one of them that I think you're really going to like. So let's jump back in here. But thank you
Sure.
for sharing that there, Spee. So here we go. Okay, so personal crisis, these whisperings that I use. And then, why do wealth whisperings? So I'm kind of looking at my screen and worthiness whisperings. Why do they work? Well, the brain can be rewired. We talk about neuroplasticity. If you do certain activities, it will actually rewire your brain. If you take 10 deep breaths, it makes a noticeable change in your brain scan. Right, just 10 deep breaths. So if you're listening, just take 10 deep breaths right now, and you actually can change the way your brain works. It's the same, positive affirmations or positive whisperings. They can help to rewire neural pathways, leading to more positive thinking and behavior. So again, it doesn't matter what age you are. It's easier when we're younger, but it can also happen when we're older. And it can actually have a much more profound effect as we get older if we just implement these things. This is why the negative self-talk that I've had, and likely you've had as well, is that somebody said something, somebody was hurtful to you or said, you're never going to be good at this, you're not good at singing, you're ugly, you're no good at business, whatever those things are. And those things are very painful. And so we internalize some of those things to tell ourselves that we actually are those things. But all these things, again, they happen typically between, teenage or younger years. And so there's a way we actually can change those things. So how do we actually do that? So we talked about the brain can be rewired. And some of these are repeat, but, this is Aristotle here. He says, we are what we repeatedly do. So excellence then is not an act, but it's a habit. So this is the idea too, that as we change our mindset, our habits then begin to change. Our excellence, we start to have different standards for ourselves. We start to actually feel differently about the things that we're creating in our life. And so, again, you're not only what you do. That's not, we're human beings, not human doings. But as we do things over time, we become a different person, and that's where these habits are really, really critical. Um, and so these are things of how do you actually set this? You may want to screenshot this. You can just take a little picture if you want. But just as a couple people brought up, well, there's key areas of my life. How do I actually change this? Right. Well, I think important to identify key areas in my life. Self-confidence was a big one, or wealth, or relationships, or health. I have goals around all these things. I have whisperings around all these things, and then I set time aside. Set yourself aside an hour, and you can take a couple examples that I've shared. You can also use ChatGPT. You can, work on things yourself and just try to figure out what would be some things that you can say. And I get into kind of how it's said, but I use present tense. So I say, I am this person. It's not like I am going to be this person. I am this person. So it just creates a present tense. In a way, you're kind of tricking your mind that this is who I am now. And then you create your whisperings. What would you like? It says over here, what would you like to be true about yourself? What do you know about yourself know to be true about yourself? Really create what you want to create, and really ensure that those the whisperings resonate, and try to feel them in your body, right? So when you're saying it, you're kind of imagining this person that is this, right? That's speaking in front of a crowd and they're owning the room, or they're going to a situation, they're fearless, they're confident, they're able to forgive people. Whatever the thing is, you can just lean into that. What does that feel like in your body? And over time, you're becoming that person. And so I think this is really powerful of how you actually create these whisperings here. So, how do you create them? Here's a few examples as well. I'm deserving of, all the good things life offers. Happiness and success are my birthright. I am inherently valuable and deserving of love and respect. I even put my name in there. So even notice when I did mine, I put my name in there. I, Bronson, I'm worthy of deserving all the good things that the life offers. Wealth and abundance. You can say, financial abundance and stability are my natural states, and wealth flows to me effortlessly because I'm worthy of it. Right. So you can create these for yourself and just, try to find things that really fit you. It will take you an hour or so to do it. I do like very specific things. Here's a few tips here. If you want to be a billionaire, then this is how you do it, right? You'd say, I, Bronson, or your name, am worthy to create and steward $1 billion, and we'll have a net worth of 100 million by 12/31/30, and a net worth of $1 billion by 12/31/35, right? So you can create this, and again, you create it with your words first, and then you start to begin to feel that, and then you just keep. What happens is, as you keep leaning into that, you will just find a way. And this has happened to me multiple times where, like, I've said, oh, this certain thing is going to happen. I'm going to raise this amount of money, this or whatever. And then suddenly an opportunity comes around, and just all of a sudden I'm at the next level. It's because I've been saying this and I've been really manifesting this, and it just allows me to get in there. So it's really comes from this. Napoleon Hill, my cousin, not really my cousin, he talks about, he says, spend 30 minutes a day imagining yourself as the person you wish to become. Right. So, 30 minutes is a long time. But what about 5 minutes? Our culture, you take 5 minutes and just be thinking about, what is this person that you want to become? What kind of wealth do they have? What kind of presence do they have? What sort of impact? What sort of legacy? And if you imagine that, you're basically like teaching your body and your spirit and your mind, just what does that actually feel like? And so using present tense language is super valuable. Be direct, be specific and detailed. The more specific you can get, the better. And the more vivid you can get, the better. So these are some tips on kind of creating, the wealth whisperings. And then, commit to doing these daily for 6 to 12 months. It doesn't happen right away. It took me about 6 months or so before I started to really experience a change. So I really think what happens, and in the research that I've done, is that it takes a while to rewire the brain. It doesn't happen immediately. They say it takes, 30 days or 90 days, different opinions of how long it takes to change a habit. But again, what this does for you over time is, as you say this in the morning, in the evening, maybe a couple times a day, and you really lean into it, it changes those tapes. And what it did for me, is it really brought up these things that happened when I was a kid. And again, I was willing to do the work, and I encourage, personal development stuff is awesome. So if stuff comes up for you where there are moments that maybe you didn't feel worthy, and you're saying a worthiness affirmation, then continue to say the affirmations, but allow yourself to go back to those memories and really see your own worthiness, even in the past, that even though you didn't feel it, you were worthy, right? So in a way, it kind of heals those things. And those are the things that kind of change your self-talk. So it's not just fake it till you make it. It's that you're doing it because you know it's true. And then it goes back to that, you can feel a certain way at a time, but that's not really the truth, right? We can feel that we weren't okay, or we weren't worthy, we weren't loved, but we were loved the whole time. And so those things are really important. So you begin to experience it over time. And then there are other rich brain habits you can incorporate as well. And then, I haven't really, that's really only the one of the habits. There's a couple other habits that are really valuable that I think you'll get, and they have to do with just, our ability to learn, our ability to interact with others that are very valuable. So this is the book here. I got just the cover of it done so far. So Rich Brain, it's late this year. It's expecting it to come out. We'll take some more questions here in a minute, but this is my current book, Fire Yourself. This one is on Amazon. So replace your working income with passive income in 3 years or less. Maybe I'll stick a link to that in the chat there in a minute. And then this is, if you want to scan this, this is a 40-page ebook, how to use inflation to your advantage. So a lot of people want to know, how do I, instead of getting stung by inflation and, food costs are 50% more than they were 4 years ago, gas is going up, all these things are expensive. Well, how do I get on the other side of that equation? There's a way through using real estate, using debt, using precious metals, just some really, unique ways. You can download that for free there. So I'll leave that up for a minute, and then we can come back to any questions that anybody has. But yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to be with me today. It looks like we had someone. Looks like Margie was talking about imposter syndrome. So I don't know where you want to go from here, Sean. We can take it where you
Yeah,
want.
I'll start teeing up some questions for you and keep things moving here. So yeah, Margie, thanks for your second comment. I'll kind of summarize here. Um, so she did say that your mindset seems to be negative a lot of the time, and rather than feeling worthy, sounds like she's more in an imposter syndrome state. Really dealing with the situation that you probably run into people like this, that things won't change. Instead of like talking herself out of that, sounds like she's always in a victim state and not worthy state. So um, I got a question for you. Based on that, let's say you're in that mindset. You maybe remember those moments, Bronson, where you're in like things aren't moving, things aren't changing. You start to think more negative thoughts. How do you rewire? How do you trigger yourself out of that lane and into the right path?
Yeah, so I think it's common. We'll go through something and we'll go through a setback or a failure, and it's easy to think, "Oh man, this thing failed. I'm a failure." And I think it's a constant thing. I don't think it's something that goes away completely, but I think it's a moment. Sometimes we do this thing, we reframe it. We're able to basically say, "Hey, this thing happened." And so this thing failed. And so what we may have said in the past is, well, because this thing failed, I'm a failure, or I'm, there's something there. But what I think I've learned as a reframe is that everything is learning. Nothing determines your value. And Brené Brown, she's amazing. If you haven't picked up her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, I highly recommend it. Just talks about, it's our worthiness is just because because we're human, right? We just have worth. There's nothing that, we're not going to be more valuable when we do well or we don't do well. We're just worthy of love and belonging. That's just who we are. And so I think, coming back to that is really important. And then also, reframing and saying, okay, so I lost $70,000 in one day in an options trade. That was over a third of my net worth. That was very painful. It was very hard. I felt all the feelings of shame and whatever. But then over time, I've been able to say, well, I learned something very valuable. And I've talked to many other successful people that have lost over $1 million in single deals. And I've had other things go exceptionally well in investing. I've had some things go really poorly. And so I think it's all learning. And so I think that's the biggest thing is, if everything is information and everything is learning and it doesn't determine who you are, there's another concept called growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is this bad thing happened, so I'm a failure and it will never change. Versus growth mindset is everything it's to help me grow. And so if I look at things that way, no matter what happens, I can just grow from it.
Right on. Love the answer. I've got a fun response to this. Have you ever watched anything by Jocko Willink?
I'm familiar with Jocko. I haven't watched any of his stuff. I know he's got a great book out there, but I haven't read it.
Sure.
So yeah.
I'm gonna put this in the chat. It's a YouTube video. I'm not going to watch it here because I know translation through a webinar to a YouTube video isn't always the best, so you guys can watch it offline. But the video is titled Good, and it's a great concept of like if you don't get the promotion or you don't get the job or don't close the deal, good. The answer is good. It gives you more time to learn. And really the principle is perspective and patience. Like knowing the right, like things are going to happen. You have to keep moving forward, but you have to have perspective, understand what's going on. And gratitude is another principle you could say is within, and that's something I have to always have. Like if things aren't moving forward, as fast as I'd like, and I'm an impatient person,
Mm.
or things aren't changing, I need to tell myself, okay, Sean, this is your opportunity to learn. First off, it's good this is not happening as fast. It's my opportunity to learn. I have to be thankful for that because it's preparing me for something better. I know it doesn't always seem like something better is coming, but if you have that expectancy and at the same time have gratitude and reflect on what you can learn right now, that's how I kind of break out of those plateau moments. It's like things are going the same, they're going the same. Reflection, gratitude, learn. There you go. You get that level up, and it doesn't
Yeah.
happen overnight, but
Yeah.
that's how I move the
Yeah, that's
needle.
huge. Now I noticed it looks, I don't know if people can see the chat. It looks like it's to hosts and panelists. And I think, I don't know if there's something set on there that when we put comments in here, I think it's just you and I that are seeing them. And so maybe
Ah,
there's a way
yes,
we
there's a
can
drop
share that.
down,
Yeah.
everyone.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we can maybe need to put our comments back in there to, I don't know if I can, I think it still says I can only do to hosts and panelists, but I want people to
I've got it.
see it.
I've got you taken care of
Oh, to
here.
everyone.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
Okay, great.
There's a little drop down.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. That looks like bronsonequity.com/inflation is the
Yeah.
link.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
um to jumping back to what Margie said, I know a lot of people can feel like they're stuck in that victim mode. Do you have any other tips there? Maybe to get tactical, like for example, morning routines, or to get more specific on what do you like, you wake up, do you go to the gym? Are you reading? What are you reading? Do you take time to meditate, to get more tactical here, to give people kind of like an ABCD type checklist?
Yeah, well, I think I think there are some specific things. I'll share what I do, but I think you have to do kind of what works for you.
Right.
Somebody I know who works with a lot of, she's worth over $10 million. She's got a lot of people she knows and works with that are high net worth, and she just said, people pick up a few habits. So sometimes, if one habit may work for you that doesn't work for other people. I cold plunge most days. I get into 39-degree water for 5.5 minutes, and that's just like I do the hard thing, and that helps. That's a big mindset thing for me. In my morning routine, I have a YouTube video on this. I can put it in the chat if you'd like, but it basically has my life-changing morning routine. What do I do? Well, I get up and I'll usually, now I'm going for a walk for about 25 minutes. My neighborhood, I live in a nice neighborhood, so I'll go for a walk and I'll just be grateful and the things I'm grateful for, and I'll pray and whatever along the way. Then I come back and I'll do well, actually before I go on my walk, usually I'll do my affirmations, or the wealth whisperings, like I mentioned. I'll do 14 of those. And then I have a spiritual practice where I go through, I call it my God story, where the ways that I'm a person of faith. So the ways that I feel I've interacted or God has interacted in my life, I'll remember those things. And those things just keep what's important to me kind of in front of me. And so I do that. So I'll put those together. And then I also I read my goals for the year. I laminate the sheet every year of my big goals. Usually I have about 10 goals for the year, and I don't achieve all of them, but I usually make progress on all of them, or usually achieve about half of them. And then I read through my values, my mission statement. I go through just a couple other things, and so it usually takes about 5 minutes to do that. And then I write down usually 3 to 5 things I'm grateful for that morning, and then I go on the walk, and then I come home, and I do a little bit of Bible reading, and then I just get started with my day. So for me, that's my routine. I think it works well for me. And then before I go to bed,
Right.
I have this app where I basically I write down 3 wins for the day, like 3 positive things that happened that day, and then 3 wins I'm looking forward to tomorrow. So what that does, this is actually great if you have kids as well, to ask them, well, what's something that you did well today, right? And so what it does is it's this process of reflection, and we actually develop confidence as we go back and we celebrate wins, right? So even if it's 1 win or 3 wins, we remember those things, and then as we look forward to the next day, we get excited about the things we're looking forward to achieving the next day. So it's a way that we really help develop our confidence. We become someone who we just see ourselves, participating in wins every day, and it's nice. So not everything's going to go perfect all the time, but it allows us to continue to create those in our life.
Circling back to your routine, one key thing to highlight there is gratitude. I was talking to my wife about this, and she was reading something. He says, if you're in a negative mindset, yet you think of things to be grateful for, it's almost a contrasting effect, because it's hard to be upset at the same time you're being grateful for something. It almost like shifts your mind has only one option. You can either be upset or down or grateful, but being grateful for even a little things, like you meet somebody new, or a friend says something encouraging, or you do something with work, or maybe it's fitness related. It's like, hey, I just hit a new. It's like you shift out of that mindset. There's a science to it, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I know Simone, you came in and said you really like the morning. Sounds like you started morning routine, which is awesome. And the small wins, yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Like setting what are the milestones for today, and I'll do that the night before. Is I always keep a notepad on my desk. I'll write down what I want to achieve tomorrow, and I always think about what's going to move the business forward the most, and I prioritize that. But it's clean at night,
Yeah.
so when I come back to it in the morning, it's like it's ready to go. And if I don't do that, I can be the type of guy that if I got to do stuff, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. Like, Sean, shut up. Like, you should have done your
Right.
checklist so you sleep
Yeah.
better at night. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. No, I think it's all this stuff is great. I do even each day I'll have a little one page I write out if here's the things I'm going to do, here's my schedule, here's the
mhm.
personal things and the things for the next day. And so I think all this stuff is great. You know, just if you can have intention around your days and what you're doing and the reflection is important. I think one thing I talk about is whatever your goals are. This is just, less on Rich Brain, more just on myself, but creating goals is great. You know, if you have written goals that you're much more likely to achieve them. And then also, it's not just the having the goals. You know, if you have great goals and great ideas, but you don't do anything on them. Like I had probably 6 years, I didn't really take action on his real estate stuff. And then one day I just said, I think it was really to going through my divorce. It took me to say, well, I'm just and approaching 40 years old. I was like, I really want to actually do something with my life. I don't want to be 7 years old or 80 years old and say I would regret not trying. And so it's really the action, right? So I have a saying that life has an action bias. So if you just simply take action, even if it's just small steps towards a goal, and then, you take the action and then you come back and reflect and say, well, did this work? Did this get me closer to my goal? Then if you continually do that, you will do way, way more than you maybe even thought you could versus somebody who just got these great strategic ideas and they never do anything, right? We all have friends like that. We know people have great ideas, but they never do anything. So even somebody who's not necessarily that smart or bright, but they just take the actions, they move forward, and then they just say, well, did this actually help get me a little closer to my goal? I think that's great learning. And that's how people achieve great things. They just consistently take the action, reflect on, and then keep taking more action.
Good stuff here. I've got another question for you around being tactical about achieving goals. There are a lot of people, you and I including, we have goals, and typically the goal can be like a goalpost out in the distance. Well, how do you bridge the gap? What are the actions that help you achieve the goal? And for example, with the Tykr community, a lot of people want to have a target to achieve financial independence or retirement by a certain date. That's the big deal. Like using Tykr to help invest. And people can be unsure if they're on track or if they're making the right moves. So we try to break that down in our education. Like, that's great, whatever the number is you want to achieve, but the discipline is being tactical about taking 15 to 30% of your check, if you can do that, and investing in about 10 to 15 strong stocks. So we get really specific, giving people those actions. Then the case study we use, and you guys heard me tell this story 1,000 times, but Ronald Reed, janitor, built up a portfolio of $8 million. How does somebody who's making close to minimum wage become a multimillionaire? The answer, you find about 10 strong stocks and keep investing in those every month. Don't skip a month. Times are tough. The economy is going bad. You get a new president. Doesn't matter. You keep investing. So tactical steps are big with the Tykr community. They want to know what to do. So do you have any tips from your perspective? You build wealth in a different way. What are you doing tactically? You've got your big goal, but what are you doing to get closer to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So how do you actually get closer to your goal financially? And so, for me, again, this is a little more, as the book develops, we're going to get more into the sort of the specific habits that people are doing, and it's more of kind of how you invest in yourself. But for me, I mean, what I do, I do a ton of learning and reading and, research. Last year, I made a goal of reading 80 books. I finished with 98 books in the year. A lot of really wealthy people have this never-ending learning process. And then, I think it's the same as kind of what I shared about, really have your end goal in mind and then continually change your approach, right? Just keep changing your approach, reflect on what will work for you. For us in our business, we're really, because I have a business that we raise money for real estate deals. So we found, a couple of new partners that we're working with on multifamily deals. We've got an oil and gas deal to help reduce ordinary income tax for people. So there's just different ways that we do it. And I just feel like when it comes on the business side, I'm willing to try different things. I think a lot of people, there's this great quote by Michael Jordan, and it says like, I've missed 50,000 shots. I've,
Yes.
done all these, things. I've game-winning shot. I've missed 53 times. And he's like, and I'll keep shooting. And he's like, and that's why I'm successful. So it's kind of like the idea of like, am I taking shots? Am I trying things? And I have a theory that a lot of things in life, if you try something and it doesn't work out, often, now again, if it's like you lose all your net worth or half your net worth, that's probably not a good thing to try. But if it's like, hey, if I try this and I'm out maybe a little bit of money and a little bit of time, but there'll be some learning there. But it has the potential to work really well. That's a great thing to try. So I'll continually try new things, both in my business, personally, in my health, in relationships. I'll just try new things because what it does is it allows me to learn. It allows that process to. So I just call them low risk experiments, right? So I think whether it comes to working with Tykr and you guys are doing different types of things, it's important, I think, to be open to try new things and to figure out what works for you. So it could be like, oh, well, my goal is here. I want to have a passive income of $1 million a year. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, I tried this and this kind of really didn't work. This one kind of worked okay, but oh man, this one over here, this has potential to actually get me there. So it's kind of this constant like trying different things, reflecting on it, and really, moving forward to do it. So I think it's going to be different for each person, but I think for, us in our business and our investing, it kind of looks different, but I shared a couple examples there.
No, that's good. Appreciate your answer. I'm going to jump to the chat here. SB, you mentioned, hey, what's the best way to diversify investments and have time freedom? So I'll take a swing at this first, and then I'll let you go, Bronson. So after years of trying multiple businesses and failing many a times, and then interviewing a lot of people like Bronson on what do they do for business? How do they build their wealth? I have a good idea of like what are the best ways to diversify to create passive or as close to passive income as you can. Obviously, number one at the list is the stock market, finding strong businesses. And I always tell people, you know, businesses I invest in have multiple streams of revenue and very scalable streams of revenue. So I tend to gravitate towards tech, which fits that equation. But there's other businesses out there. So stocks is number one. Number two is your neck of the woods, your jam, which is real estate. People will continue to populate. And guess what? People need places to live, which means you need real estate. Real estate's great. You can go single family, multifamily, or what you do a lot of, Bronson, which is syndications, large complexes, bigger deals. I actually like that. I think that's a great way to diversify. SB, you should reach out to Bronson offline if you want to learn more. But those are the top two at the top of the list. There's a lot of people, and I won't go on here for long and I'll stop talking, but people trying to get into crypto or trying penny stocks or trying multi-level marketing schemes. I'm just throwing out things. There's a lot of things out there, and I've heard the stories on what they're doing. Forex trading, for example, options falls in that category. A lot of things that the juice isn't worth the squeeze. People really don't make a lot of money. It's higher risk. You want to make money legitimately, Warren Buffett style, stock investing or real estate. I mean, real estate's been proven. Those are the top two by a long shot. So I'll stop there, Bronson.
Yeah, no, that's all great, man. I think it's a great question to SB of what's the best way to diversify investments and have time freedom. Well, this really, I had a story of this. I thought, like a lot of people, that I'm going to have, get involved in real estate. So I thought, well, what do I know about real estate? I've known about houses, so I'll go buy a house, and I'll go buy another house, and I'll buy another house. So a lot of times people will think they'll get into investments that they feel are passive that are not actually passive. And in my book, I'll just put this in the chat. Maybe you can share this. Sean, that's my book there. But this is basically the journey of how do you grow wealth without taking up more of your time, right? What is the way? How do you go about that? And so I think that there are larger deals where, because, again, I'll go back just real quick. I had this single family portfolio. I had a property manager. I had people working on things, whatever, but still the tenants wouldn't pay, or there'd be an issue with the city, or I'd have repairs. And it was kind of like a headache. And I realized the big test to see if it really is passive, if you could 10x the amount of investment you're putting into it. So for example, if I could go from 4 houses very quickly to 40 houses, am I still able to manage that without being another job? And I realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't manage 40 houses, even with a property manager, without it being another job. So it really wasn't scalable for me. It wasn't actually a scalable thing. And so I think, and the other thing I did is I may have been getting okay returns, but I undervalued my time. I was making, $100 an hour or more in my job. So if I was making, $100 an hour, I wasn't valuing my time at the $100 an hour. So I was actually making less versus if I were to go to a larger deal with an established team, it was doing large real estate, multifamily deals, or was doing other types of businesses or oil and gas or car washes, other things that I could show that, hey, these guys have this experience, they have the track record. I mean, there will still be, it's not fully passive, nothing's fully passive, but I could basically do the work on the front end, develop relationships with a couple of really good teams, invest, and then just like really get that mailbox money. And that's the name of my podcast. I think you've been on the show as well, called the Mailbox Money Show. And so it's just the idea of like, how do I invest in things that produce what Warren Buffett says, money while you sleep. He has this quote that says, unless you learn how to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. And I think that's a great way to really determine how do you create more time freedom and financial freedom where it is scalable and it doesn't take up your time. And that's I think what true financial freedom is time freedom.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good call. Real estate is, yeah. SB, appreciate your comment there. Real estate it's great. And I've talked to people who get into those situations where they're owning multiple single family units and it is very time consuming. You deal with tenants. If tenant leaves, you got to find a replacement. You're fixing toilets. It can be a pain. And you've leveled up. You've thought, how do I, make money with real estate? But now we're going to level up to the syndicate level. That's a smarter play, just from perspective. And I've talked to a lot of guys like you that they started with a single family, they graduated to the syndicate level, those bigger complexes, bigger deals, more units involved. It's where you more predictable, less headache income.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's
yeah.
what we want, right? We want to scale up without taking up more time. And it's the word for business. A lot of people think it's through a business. And I have a business, you have a business, many people here have businesses, but the word for business comes from the British or the old English word busyness. And it has the word actually means anxiety. Right. So
Mm,
sometimes too, it's like the more we develop a business, we can try to do self-managing things. But I think passive income really is great if you can do the work on the front end and then you develop good relationships with great sponsors and there's great opportunity there for sure.
right. To circle back to what you really focused on in this webinar was mindset and getting yourself in the right mindset, having a peace of mind, gratitude where you're at is so important. But then, like those comments, like Margie, if you get into those ruts where you're kind of victim mentality, you're kind of struggling, um, creating habits because it's not going to be one thought, it's the repetition. It's kind of like I'm big into fitness. If you want to get into better shape, it's not that one workout, it's it's got to be repetitive. And then of course same thing with like eating healthy. You gotta not just one healthy meal, you gotta have multiple. It's the discipline. The
Yeah.
same thing with the stock market. It's like you want to build wealth, it's not that one investment, it's continuously investment. So there's a pattern there. It's the habits over and over and over. Small moves every day move the needle. And when you zoom out and look at the last week, the last month, last 3 months, last 6 months, that's when you see changes. And that's why I think it's really important for everybody to have a pause moment, take a day off, have some reflection. Because you're probably like me, Bronson, you get into grind mode and you just go heads down,
Yeah.
go, 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 go. Okay. Like last week and Labor Day weekend was wonderful because I could pause. I literally did nothing for 3.5 days.
Yeah.
And I could read books, relax, and that gave me great perspective over the last 3 and 6 months.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. That's it. I mean, having that pause and reflecting is awesome. So well done
Yeah.
on that.
All right. We are coming to the top of the hour here. Any last comments or questions from anyone? I'll give you another few seconds here.
Yeah. Um,
Simone says thanks. Yeah.
uh,
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Simone.
joining again. Yeah.
Thanks, Simone. That's great. Well, Sean, I just want to say while people are jumping in there, I just really appreciate you letting me come and share with your community. It's great to be able to share this. And of course, this is the first time I've given this presentation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Love to connect with anybody offline. Either I can put my email or you can share my email if you like, Sean, and
Sure.
we can reach out to anybody if they want to chat. And just love what you're doing, love what you're creating for people. And I love what Tykr's doing to be able to change lives. And you have a lot of success stories. I know how you help people. So thanks for all you're giving to the community.
Appreciate that. And thanks for jumping on. Going to reconnect. And yeah, when we get this posted on YouTube, there'll be your contact information down below. Anybody can reach
Yeah.
out. But we are looking forward to your book. So, let us know. Do a share on LinkedIn because I'll reshare it. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Make sure
Okay.
it goes out to your my audience, your audience, everybody. We'll see it.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. Thanks, man. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate you, Sean. Thanks for everybody who joined, and I look forward to releasing the book and be able to have you guys enjoy it as well.
all right. We'll see you guys. Thanks for jumping on. Talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
everyone.
See ya.